If you spend some time listening to us or other creative podcasts, you will have probably heard that you should niche down and become the go to person for one specific thing. Our guest Marie Zieger, however, has a different point of view on that topic. Her stance is radically anti niche. Curious to hear your point of view, but before we get into it, can you introduce yourself and what you do?
Yeah, sure. Hi, so nice to be here. My name is Marie. I'm a graphic designer and strategist, a forest bathing guide, and a community host based in Vienna. And yeah, basically my roots lie in art direction and design. I've been in the creative industry for over 10 years now. I studied communication design in Graz and started working at a local design agency in Graz as well before going freelance 2 years later. And then I eventually moved to Vienna, where I co founded a design studio with a friend and ultimately transitioned into my current creative practice, which is every season. Which is where I bring together all my work in design, community building, and nature based experiences. And yeah, as you might have heard, I've always considered myself a so-called multi-curious creative, which is someone who follows their curiosity intuitively, and is basically just holding space for more than just one single passion. Because alongside my work as a graphic designer, I've always been interested in a lot of different things. And when I was at university, a lot of people in my age group or in my generation, they had a lot of different side projects. It was just something like all of us did all the time. We always had like some kind of like website we were doing on the side, or some fun project, or I don't know, some side hustle that was going on next to the studies or next to internships. And I feel like this is like the kind of mindset I grew up with, and which is also something that I took with me in my later career. So whenever I was working either at a company or when I was self-employed, I was always doing some things on the side. So for example, I don't know, I had a travel online magazine with a friend, or I used to take part in these like cover designs where we used to do our own mixtapes on Spotify, and then we would design some covers and then we would like upload them on this platform that was super popular back then. So like this is just something I used to do throughout my whole career basically. And one of these side projects eventually became Every Season, which initially started out as an outdoor community for people to just come together, reconnect with nature, and experience something new through like different community hikes, trail runs, through any kind of like nature workshops or recreational adventures. And over time, it just evolved into this, I don't know, I call it this living, breathing ecosystem of all the things I'm passionate about, like all my projects and all my passions. Um, and this ecosystem is kind of like constantly evolving and growing with me. And today, it basically spans all kinds of things I do, from design and strategy over to event management, to all the curated outdoor experiences I host, the forest bathing sessions I do as a forest bathing guide. And yeah, basically whatever feels fun and exciting to me. And at the heart of it all is just like I really care about like connecting with people and helping them figure out like what they want to say and what they want to do and reconnect with their creativity. So I feel like usually it sounds like there is a lot of stuff like going on at the same time, but I just feel like at the core of it, it all comes down to these same values that like power all these different projects, and that is more or less the thing that is like tying it all together in my point of view. But yeah.
Yeah, it's very relatable. I mean, you said it that a lot of people in university also had their side projects. I don't know if it's like I don't know if it's like a sickness that we have as creatives,
Yeah.
that we always have to do like 10 different things to be satisfied. But we're very similar. I mean, we have the podcast, we have the agency, we're doing the side project now, like called Factor, where we're trying to redefine like value-based pricing for creatives. And I also feel like I'm doing 1,000 different things all the time. But I
We
would be,
have to.
I know I would be bored if we wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Just one more thing I was really curious about. What is a forest bathing guide?
Yeah, I get the
Yeah.
question a lot.
Someone who's completely like,
No, I also need to know. I need an answer to that, because I was like, wait, what? Is that something I'm supposed to know?
Exactly. I'm like, is this like a thing I didn't know about? Okay.
Forest bathing is, I mean, maybe you heard the German term, it's called Waldbaden. And it's like this, like really
No.
ancient.
No.
Actually, it comes from China, and it's actually then gotten very popular in Japan. And it's a mindfulness practice, which is like taking people, like usually like groups of like 5 to 10 people, going with them into the forest and then doing different kinds of mindfulness practices, meditation practices, any kind of like slow movement, and it's used to kind of like slow yourself down and really like check in with your surroundings, become really aware of what's surrounding you, become really aware of all your senses. So it works with a lot of these like practices which help you to check in with your body, with your surroundings, with your senses, and become really slowed down, because it usually takes around like 3 to 4 hours. You spend a long time in the forest, but you actually don't have any kind of like goal. So it's not like a hike where you have to move from point A to B, but you're usually just like in, I don't know, within 1 kilometer basically. And you do a lot of like really slow things, slow walking, but also lying down, or just walking through a river in a really slow motion. So it's all about like becoming more mindful and slowing down. And like being in the forest has a lot of these additional benefits. It's really good for your whole like system. It slows down your heart rate. It's good for your respiration. It's really nice for your mental health, basically. And it's a super famous practice. A lot of people do it in Japan, but it hasn't really gotten so famous over here. So yeah, I don't know. I just got interested into it when I started every season, and we're hosting all these different events. I really just wanted to find like ways to go against like all the hustle culture that was going around, and really like help myself. It was really funny actually, because I was really getting interested in it when I myself started to get overwhelmed by work and by the workload I was dealing with. So I just really got curious about different practices that could help me out, and through my own like connection with nature and experimentation in like trying to find something that really resonated with me, I found forest bathing. And then I actually found a training which happened in Styria, and I got licensed in it. So now I'm doing these sessions for other people in and around Vienna.
Okay, so interesting. I literally thought it's like bathing in like a lake in the forest. I took it very literally, so really has
It's
to.
more like cleansing your mind, I guess. You can
Yeah.
see it that way.
Mhm.
I think it's interesting that you looked into it because you were overwhelmed by all the stuff you're doing at work, but then you also turned it into a job. But
True.
it's nice because now you can, like, while doing the job, also have the benefit of being in the forest and doing like the cleansing, which is
I
cool. I kind of did a similar thing with one of my like sport hobbies. I became like an instructor at the studio, so then I like combined like work with with the hobby. But I still feel like when I go and I do it, I still feel like it's beneficial to me because it's work, but it's a different type of work. Like I'm doing it with my body, and for me, it's still like a balance to the other work that is more likely to stress me out.
Is it like also like a creative sickness that you just turn everything into
A job?
a job?
Totally.
Or a
I
project.
feel like it's such a
Exactly.
disease of our generation
Yeah.
as well. Like I'm always talking to my partner about it. It's like we have like all these ideas constantly hammering in our heads. Like we want to do this kind of like, I don't know, schnapps brand, and then we want to start this
Yeah.
kind of thing, and then we
Ah,
want to
yes,
have this
it's
community, and like
Oh
let's
my
do
God,
this new,
yeah.
and like it's like constant. And I feel it's super nice that like our creativity is so alive and there is so much going on, and constantly like pushing out all these new ideas. But I feel like with we shouldn't be like taking all of these things and making them our main jobs. But I feel like in incorporating different things into what like this ecosystem looks like, we can then put different energies into like all these different things, and then they don't lose that initial like, I don't know, attraction we had to it. Like it doesn't have to be our main source of income. It can be one part of this ecosystem, which is the fun thing about it. Because I feel like if there is this pressure of like this thing has to like pay all my bills, it gets really hard to find enjoyment in it over time, because over time there will be this pressure of like, I don't know, some annoying clients or having to take on projects you're not feel fully aligned with, and like all these kinds of things like that usually come with every job. I feel like we all, I don't know, we all felt that once in the past 10 or 15 years we have been doing this. Like not every project was super fulfilling and super fun, and like there were some of those we did just because of the money. I mean, I feel it's so normal, although it's still not talked about so much. I mean, a lot of people just share their super exciting projects and the best things, and I mean, that's totally fine. We all play that game, but still like everybody has made this experience. And I think that's also one thing that's really speaking for having a portfolio of different things you do, because then you can like put different energies into all these different things and really think about, okay, what is maybe, I don't know, 60 or 70% of my income, and what is like 10%, which is just for fun, which is something I'm just doing on the side, and which are some products I pushed out because I just want to do these products and I just want to make them happen, but they don't have to make like these insane sales. Otherwise, I can't afford my rent anymore. You know what I mean? So it's like really trying to figure out where I put how much emphasis in or how much time and energy in. And I feel like that kind of sometimes saves us from this like getting super annoyed, but is one thing we initially really loved.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree on that.
Yeah, me too. Like, I also agree that it's not talked about enough. I feel like, especially in the design scene or like sphere, whatever you would like to call it, it's like this thing of just showing how successful you are and what cool projects you've worked on and all the awards. I feel like it's all super superficial. And once you get on the bottom of it, most of us are burned out. Most of us, a lot of us are burned out. A lot of us are in jobs that where they don't enjoy the craft anymore so much. Like what got them into it in like initially, what you also mentioned is then something that makes them more miserable because suddenly they are stuck working for clients that just make them feel miserable, or working on projects or with teams that just like, I don't know, just doesn't feel great. So can totally relate to what you were saying.
Yeah, you also mentioned something interesting which made me feel like I need to reflect, which is that having the pressure on one thing kind of takes the enjoyment out of it. And I've been feeling that, especially with our agency work, like the last year or 2 years, because it's like our main source of income. I have like smaller things, like I'm an instructor at like a fitness studio or whatever, where I have like a little bit of small income there. And I enjoy that like 100%. And that money is like, doesn't mean a lot to me because it's not like there's no pressure there for me. Like, and I don't mind it not being a lot. With the agency stuff, there's like so much pressure. It's like, we need to make this amount of money to survive kind of thing. And I don't know, maybe that's why I don't enjoy it anymore. Like, I need to reflect on that.
Yeah, also we are pretty open about it. We had like we had like a really big high, and then it was followed by a really big low. And I think that kind of like that showing us like, wow, it can go that high and then suddenly it goes that low. I'm still like recovering from that shock, to be honest.
Yeah, and then we recovered from that, but then it's always like, when does the low happen again? Like, because you know
Exactly.
you know that it's a potential
Yeah.
thing.
But I also think that's the
But what
nature
do you
of it.
think is like the reason for the low? So is it like more like the current state of the economy and stuff like that? Or is
Yeah.
it
That
yeah.
too.
Yeah, that too. That definitely. I mean, everyone's feeling it. I think that there's less investment in creative services with AI and all that, like whatever. It's a really difficult time. And we are lucky and we have a couple of like contracts that keep us above water, but that's also stressful because there's a lot of pressure on those those specific projects, which are not a lot. So it's like all of the pressure is in one place, like you were saying before. And I think that I feel like now that you said that's probably contributing to how we feel about the big picture of it, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's also why we started a side project.
Yeah, so then we start side projects that don't bring us any money, but bring us like 100% joy. It's like 0% financing, but 100% joy. And
But
then I feel good
potential.
about it.
Yeah, I feel good about it too. But the potential that there might be some financing,
Like that it could be a source of income. Yeah,
exactly.
sure, of course.
I
That's
mean,
obviously a motivating factor.
yeah, for sure.
But I
Um,
also feel like by following exactly these kinds of like passions or these like projects that you really care about and are really like excited about, it also like it puts you on this different path where you just follow this kind of curiosity and you just want to, I don't know, keep exploring and keep seeing where this leads you. But it also like teaches you so much along the way. And I feel like it really changes the way of the work you put out, and it really changes the way of like how people perceive you. So I feel like, especially with every season, it was always like in the beginning this outdoor community project, which was about this whole different topic. Like it was about people getting outside, it was about hiking, it was about nature. Like not everybody in my creative circle was connecting with it because not everybody cares about these kinds of things. Um, but also like I feel because we have this like I always saw graphic design as this incredible tool, like this incredible thing I got to make so many other different things happen and make all these like different interests or different, I don't know, passion projects become a reality. And like a lot of people don't have that tool. They just get out there and they need to put all that money into photographers and graphic designers and copywriters and blah, blah, blah. And like if you already got one of these tools like internalized, it's so cool because you can make so much other stuff happen. And so I had this one tool at my disposal to actually create all the graphic design for the event posters and all that stuff, which now, like, I don't know, 3-4 years later, whatever you want to call it, like, is getting me so many new inquiries because, like, people have seen, like, all that kind of stuff I was doing for this and this kind of, like, style I had for every season. And it really just showed people, like, oh, wow, she can do, like, all these different things. So I feel like it's really nice, like, how it traces back to, like, where you started out and then how it, like, basically, like, I don't know, closes the circle and you get like all these like new fun projects which are inspired by the things you did before. And also I feel like on the other side, like this is one point, but the other point is like people got to know me like in this whole different kind of like surrounding, like all my personal interests in nature, in being outdoors, like meeting up like once a month and just like talking on the trails and stuff like that. Like I have a lot of people now who I work with who were just like part of some hikes and who were just like some random people I got to know for like these community projects. And I think it's so nice because this also this really underlines like how much people connect with you as a person. Like you are the secret sauce. Like your kind of skill someone else might also have, like somebody else might also do really nice designs, might also do something in this kind of style. Like there is always somebody out there who is doing your job like as good as you or maybe even better than you, but there's only you. And I mean it's such a, I don't know, such a boring sentiment because we all know about this, like this concept of what an influencer is, which I'm not calling myself, but I'm just saying like we know the concept of how it works. But I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's an Austrian thing. Like, not a lot of people have jumped onto this in like a business context, I feel like. Like, throughout my career, I felt like it was always the norm that we were just sitting there and like praying for somebody to take up the phone and call us and give us some jobs. And we would just like thankfully take on everything that would come our way. And I mean, of course, there were some super, I don't know, successful people who would just like win a lot of awards and then maybe they would get a lot of new inquiries and stuff like that. But I feel like if you were just like, I don't know, regular graphic designer in the scene, you were just like sitting there hoping somebody would call and ask you if you could do the job with you, or you would have some referrals from any kind of like past clients. But not a lot of us are, I feel like, are used to talk about like what we like apart from our work online, or basically like just invite people to get to know us better apart from showing our portfolios. And I feel like that's really a chance that is missed because there is all this like potential to basically get to know the people we want to work with better and those people to get to know us better and then form this kind of connection, which then maybe lets them think, okay, this is a really cool person. I want to work with this person. I like her projects. I like her style. I like what she's putting out there. But more than that, I really connect with her on this like personal level. And I feel like that's such a nice way actually like connect with people nowadays, which is not just like that is, okay, I'm just doing this one thing and this is my one niche and I'm just talking about this one thing all the time. And hopefully somebody is calling me up for a new job. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely get what you mean. And I agree with you on that sentiment that it's your personality and it's like who you are and how you show up that usually gets you into the conversations with the right people or like into the conversations of like probably potentially getting a project. I think that regardless of how you get in contact with the people, I think that like ultimately it always comes down to, are you a good fit? And are you like, can they relate to you? Do they feel like, do they feel understood? I feel like that was always like one of our strengths, like going into like potential client calls. I feel like that's where we showed up in the right way. And so definitely agree with you there. I also agree that getting out there and showing up gets you places and getting into conversations and not just like sitting around and waiting for someone to contact you. But I also think that by having, because you also mentioned like the niching down part, like just talk about your niche. But I also think that having that also gets you into conversations with the people that are specifically looking for the type of work where you are like what you're focused on. I feel like two things can be true in this case,
Yeah.
just depending on who you're talking to. Because I think that if if you want to talk to those people, let's say we have a specific focus and we talk about that focus most of the time. So people who are looking at that looking for that type of work, they will find you. Like we just recently had a case actually.
Yeah, I just redid our website, and for this exact reason that I felt like we weren't speaking to the niche that we wanted to be speaking to enough. And something I researched was like that, and we wanted to work with more brands like the ones we're working with now, which are very like specific, so skincare, beauty, lifestyle brands. And I researched that these types of brands want to hear that you've worked with other brands in that like industry. So a skincare brand will look for an agency that has worked with other skincare brands. It's like important to them that you understand the product and the industry. So I was like, okay, we're not communicating this on our website. We need to change that. So I changed our website and I communicated this. Like it's on the first page. It's like we work with skincare, lifestyle, beauty brands. And just like I don't know, 2 weeks later,
No, I think around
I think like 2 weeks later, we get an inquiry from a skincare brand. And one of the things the guy said to us when we had the intro call and like the discovery call was like he's looking for an agency that understands skincare brands. So it basically just like confirmed what I had researched, that that's important to them. And it might be different for other industries, but in our case, it was really important to like communicate that niche. So when you say you're like, I know you have like communicated on your in your content that you're like radically anti-niche. What for you is niching down then? Like you kind of mentioned it before, but like do you have like a definition of niching down that you disagree with?
Mm, I feel like the thing I'm trying to communicate in my content or the person I want to speak to is someone who has a lot of different facets and who is like very multi-interested in a lot of different things, but feels like really compartmentalized basically and just like pushed by, I don't know, social media advice and marketing gurus to have to put out this one sole thing, but actually feel like, okay, I'm just like interested in a lot of different things as well. And I feel like I have to shut all these different sides of myself down. Which is why I do agree with what you said before that possibly like there are many things that are right in this context because there are different kind of people who look for different kinds of things. Like I'm talking to a very specific person and I feel like I'm radically anti-niche, which I call it, because I just made this experience myself that it really broke me down to be like all these different kind of roles, like separated like next to each other. Like I didn't have this like place where I could bring all these together, and it really didn't feel good to me. But when you tell the story of like the skincare example, I wouldn't say like, okay, you did the wrong thing and now I don't know. It worked out for you guys because you got to talk to someone who was specifically looking for someone with that kind of experience. So I wouldn't say like what you're saying is wrong in this case, but I just feel like niching down has become this like really, I don't know, universal advice that is like pushed onto every single person. And I don't feel like every single person like really aligns with this kind of advice. I don't think it's a good thing to say like you should do this and only then you get the numbers and only then you get the projects and only then you get the clients you want to. I don't think it's true. And I feel like that's why I'm so against it in my personal case, because I just felt like, okay, I have been trying this kind of way and I feel like it really broke me down and I really don't want to do that again. And I want to have like space for all these different kinds of things. Do I say with it like do 700 things at once and get overwhelmed and burned out in the process? No. I mean, like there are different ways to interpret it and I can totally understand how it like gives this how do you say like it really sounds like, okay, let's do all the things and let's do it all at once. And it's like not the kind of advice I want to put out there. It's just like there is space for more than one thing to show yourself to people, to like be available for different things, to have different kind of passions you can make into your job. But you don't have to like do all of these 700 things at once and like get totally overworked in the process. Like it's just, I don't know, it's just like finding space to actually like express like different sides of yourself and like not feel like you have to be pushed in this one direction just because some, I don't know, social media guru told you to.
Yeah. Was your way of moving away from, because you said you tried the niching down thing and then you went a different way. Was your way of doing that putting everything under the one brand name of every season? Like, did you have it separated before? Or like what was that process like of, first of all, what were you doing before that wasn't working and how did you get to where you are now? Like what did you do to change that for it to be more of a generalist approach?
I feel like the thing is, like I said, I used to be a graphic designer for most of my life, either as a freelancer or as part of a studio. And I usually, this was kind of like my day job, you could say. And then I had all of these other kinds of things I was interested in, which I did in the mornings, in the evenings, on the weekends and stuff like that. So it really got overwhelming over time to like separate my days into these kind of sections where I do all these kind of different things. And it also like on a mental level, it was also pretty hard to just like switch into this different kind of role at a different time or on a different day and then become somebody else kind of, when it should feel like I am all these things. Like I carry all these roles, like I am all these facets of myself. I'm not just like on Monday I'm this and on Sunday I'm that. So it was like this kind of like weird thing where I did all these things like side to side instead of like incorporating them into my whole day. And I feel like I move at more ease now where I wake up and then I look on my calendar and I see, okay, now I have an event to plan today for, I don't know, some group hike, but I also have to do this like packaging design for this other client later. And then maybe I have a call for a possible collaboration with a brand. And it's like, it's way more fun to move between these things. And it gives me a lot more ease than having to like separate my days or my weeks into like these different kind of roles.
That's so interesting to me. The reason why I asked this question was because I feel like I had the opposite happen with me because I at same or like also with the podcast, like behind the scope and also this other passion project. I was for all of these projects doing the social media and newsletter and marketing. And what we had initially was like the same brand, and we had like multiple things. We had the agency, and then we had like the consulting educational aspect, and then we had the podcast on top of that, and then we had this passion project. And I felt like that was just like it was so separated everything, but then that ended up being every day I was like working on all these different things and it stressed me out. And I felt like I had to separate it more. So what we ended up doing is having the agency, then we have the podcast, and then we have this passion project. And in the podcast, we combined like all the educational stuff. So like workshops, consulting, and all that stuff. And for me, that was it's easier to have like on one day I work on almost only podcasts, and every now and like obviously the agency stuff always comes like and ruins my day. It's like, okay, we have a client call here, or I have to do like project management here, because like our designer needs feedback. So that's always the thing that kind of like disrupts my day. But other than that, I have like my days really like separated, because for me, I found that was like the way I could be the most productive and also have the like clearest mind going into the things. And it is kind of like, okay, today I'm agency Rebecca, and then like tomorrow I'm podcast Rebecca, and then like on Wednesday I'm factor Rebecca. So I'm like, I do kind of like change every day what I'm doing. So it's just an interesting observation that people like how different people are in these things. Like, because for me,
Totally.
I felt overwhelmed doing it the other way.
I
Yeah.
feel
And for
like
you,
that's
it
the
was the other way
thing.
around.
Yeah, exactly. Like what we talked before, it's like some people are, I don't know, type A, some are type B, some are like they want to have different clients all the time. Some other ones do want to work in a specific industry and call in, I don't know, skincare brands and I don't know, stuff like that, for example. So I feel like that's why like what we talked before, just like you can't put out advice and say like this everybody should do this, but it's more like, who am I calling in? Maybe I'm calling in someone who is like, fuck, I've been feeling like this for a long time and this person is calling it out, and I'm actually feeling like I want to try out this path for myself as well. And I feel like that's the thing.
Okay, you said something interesting, which was that, or actually, we talked about something interesting, which was that advice is like, I agree with you there. I think advice is usually not the one fits all solution. And I don't think it pretends to be necessarily. What I like about the niching down advice that is online is that it kind of makes you think about your positioning. I don't think we need to look at it as radically like niche down to I don't know, to like one single grain, but more like as a general advice of like understanding who you are and who you want to speak to. I think there's like different levels of niching down. I would say like a high level of niching could really just be just to have a defined target group, or like a lower level of niching down could be to have a target group and have specific services. Like in our case, would be like really down to the nitty gritty, where we're like working for, okay, we mostly just do websites, e-commerce. That's our niche. So we did a more radical approach to that. However, I feel like with you speaking to multifaceted people, that's for me also already considered a niche. Like I think that that's a tool for positioning, and less than having to really just be this one thing, but more like it just helps you to communicate to the people that you want to communicate to.
I feel it's giving this whole feeling of not being able to I don't know, work in just one space or as one job, like a name. It's just this name of being a multi-hyphenate, and like everything else, there is like a kind of like bubble around it, and and some people who feel like aligned with that kind of bubble.
Mhm.
And I definitely know what you mean, because at the end, it's like I said, it's still calling in people who kind of feel like the same and who want to build worlds in this kind of like same way. Um, but I still feel like there are still a lot of, I mean, it's pretty much like a bit of counterintuitive business advice, because like some people might be confused. I mean, let's be honest about it. And I feel that's also, in my point of view, it's just not the worst thing. Like if you have a lot of these like multitudes you just want to like put into your job, or like present as your creative ecosystem, you kind of like have to get comfortable with not being so easily defined. And I think that's a really important thing of being a multi-hyphenate and like standing your ground in this whole thing. And I feel like by doing that and by really like figuring out, okay, this is like who I am and these are the kinds of things I want to put out there, you also do some kind of excavation of who you are and what you want to say. Like I think I said this in the beginning of the talk. It's like there are a lot of different things I put out on the outside, but they are all like driven by these same values. And I feel like there has to be a lot of internal work and like really figuring out like what are the things that are pushing like all these different projects.
I think you were saying earlier, and also kind of what you were saying now, is that people don't, or I don't know, maybe it's like you were saying, maybe it's an Austrian thing, or like maybe it's something we just didn't learn to do, which is like to communicate who we are and like what makes us special and like our personality, because that's what like gets you jobs. And that's also that's actually what has been our experience too, and not necessarily what like got us into the conversations, but it's definitely something that helped us once we were in the conversation. um and I agree with that as well, but I feel like it's something that we also struggled with, because what I was talking about before with like having same be the name tied to all the things that we were doing, it didn't feel right because we're not speaking to the same target group with the things that we're doing. So originally we didn't have same in the podcast name, but on like social media, everything to do with what we were doing was coming from same. So whether it was like the agency stuff or the podcast stuff or just like whatever our random thoughts are on threads, like it was all coming from same, and it didn't feel right because same doesn't speak to community. It actually speaks to like high profile clients. So there was like a disconnect for me there in my brain, and I was like, I have to separate this somehow. So I agree with the like we need to show our personality, but I feel like it doesn't make sense for us as an agency. It makes sense for us as like community leaders and community builders, which we're also doing. And we do that over like with other channels. So do you feel like that's something that's more maybe relevant to like single person businesses, or do you think it really just depends on like a person and what they feel like makes sense to them in their like everyday work life?
I mean, yeah, at the end of it, it really, really depends on the person. And if you're like even open about sharing your life like that, if you want to like show up in this kind of way, if you want to show yourself in this kind of way, I feel like that's a barrier for a lot of people. They don't want to show themselves. They don't want to show their faces. They don't want to be like this kind of open about things they're going through in their lives. And I feel like that's such an individual thing. But on a more on a creative business level, I would say it's definitely something that I would say targets more smaller businesses and one person freelancers, of course, because these are the kinds of people you might want to connect with. Like maybe you want to work with other service providers who are like offering their kind of services and you want to do the website for them. And then it really makes sense to connect on this more personal level. I feel like if you're talking about this other level of being an agency, you're really trying to call in these high profile clients. Of course, it might just be, I don't know, not really working for them because they want to have this like more professional level. Like on the outside, they just want to see like the portfolio pieces. They're just looking for this kind of like agency who has worked in this kind of industry before, like you mentioned before. And I feel like maybe that's not as inviting to them, and it then maybe not work in this kind of like area. But then again, we're experiencing a lot of like big companies who are working with any kind of like smaller to bigger influences, and they have based their whole business on this like whole personality based business model. And I feel like there is something to learn from that as well. I feel like it could work on so many different levels, but of course I can't predict like which company would work with which person exactly and what kind of approach works for everybody in this way. Um, but I feel like in the end, today I'm seeing like a lot of people who are really, really double thinking about like where they're gonna put their money in, where they're investing in, like who are they hiring, and it's getting harder every time to sell your services. And I feel like this is this kind of like extra level that is helping people get to know you better and your kind of work ethic and your kind of like overall value system. And it really helps to like connect with potential clients on such a different level. And I think it's a really really good thing to actually get to know each other better.
I agree with you. Like, I think that leading with authenticity is extremely helpful, especially in a time where we are now getting more and more polished, like with AI, especially. Like, we all sound the same, all things look the same. I think the main differentiator now could be your personality, or will probably be your personality and how you show up. Like, for example, when I was going through your website, I was also like really, you were like speaking to me because I felt like, yeah, I am this person who has 1 million interests. Oh, yeah, I am this person who grew up similarly as you did. Like, you're mentioning on your website, like doing some kind of themes for your blog. And I can totally relate to that because I was doing the same. I was also like writing my novels. I was even like writing and reading fan fiction. Like, I was like going crazy. And I think that for me,
Yeah, me too. Fan
yeah,
fiction was the best.
it was the
I
best.
never got
I
into
was
that, but I know a lot of
I,
people from our
oh
yeah,
generation.
my
I think
gosh.
that's I had to let go. I don't know. I was so immersed in the world. I had to get more of it,
Yeah.
especially of the couples that I was shipping, and I needed more stories, and I
Wow,
just couldn't
yeah.
stop. Yeah, exactly. So I feel like I just felt like I connected to you. And as someone, if I was like if I was a one person business looking to do business with someone else and reading that text, I would have really connected to you. And I think that, again, it just really depends on the target group that you're speaking to, of how you should show up, as in, I'm not trying to make it super general, but I do think that positioning and the target group focusing is legit. And I just think that you just need to think of the different target groups, or the different target group that the, the target group that you're speaking to. And in our case, what Becca mentioned, we just had so many different target groups. Whereas I feel like from what I read on your website, it's more like you have this target group of speaking to I need to that word, to multi-hyphenate people. So I feel like that target group, even if it might be broad, it still speaks to the people that have multiple interests, while we are like focused on the different target groups that we couldn't combine under one umbrella.
Yeah. I do have to say though, that like in the future, I feel like we have two projects that are like speaking to the same target group, and this was actually an issue like I brought up when we did the rebranding of the podcast and we got rid of like the same name on our social media. Was like, what do we do, because now we have two brands like speaking to the same target group, and that again to me didn't make sense, because I feel like in my head it would be nice to combine them. But because the podcast is like still very separate from this other passion project we're doing, like for now it's separate, but I do see like the goal is to someday combine the two. Because that was one, I feel like when you have one target group, it does get confusing if you have all these different like roles and all these different brands, and like, because why? And I do feel that way about the podcast and the Factor project,
Yeah.
because it's the same target group.
Also, you mean, okay.
Like them being separate and then marketing them separately, and then having like the role of podcasting and then having the role of like Factor product, to me in my head gets confusing and stressful.
Even just to get it right, even though you're speaking to the same target group.
Yeah, because I'm like, why isn't it just one brand?
I got it. Yeah.
Like, why isn't it just one thing?
Yeah, I got
You know,
it.
like for you have every season and you're doing all these different things with it. Like, my goal is to someday have one brand for the community stuff. But right now for us, it made more sense to keep it separate, for like logistic reasons. But yeah, that is a thing. I think that maybe the target group is really the most important thing when it comes to like deciding on whether to split things up or keep it as like one, you know, you're the one person and you're doing all of these things and you're the generalist,
Yeah,
you know?
I think that some generalists some generalists slip into the position of talking to no one, offering all the services and talking to no one. And
Yeah.
for example, I don't feel like that's the case for you at all. I totally understood once I landed on your website who you're talking to, and you were talking to me specifically, but also like I understood who you're like targeting like pretty immediately. I think that with the niching down, it's a really good concept, or like positioning. is a really good concept for people who are like speaking to everyone and speaking to no one and offering all the services under the sun and not really specializing in one. So I see it more like as a tool of um, asking yourself, okay, who am I speaking to? What's most fun for me? Maybe I hate doing logos and I still communicate we are doing logos or I'm doing logos, and it would make sense to be like, okay, let's just like remove the logos from the services. And I think on that level, I really like the advice of niching down, but I also agree with you. It can get a bit problematic if you're not like understanding the goals that you have with that tool, because every tool is just as good as what you like, what the goals are. Like I'm not going to use a drill to for a nail, like to put in a, I don't, that was a shit example. But there's like different tools for different needs. And also with like in any other case, like in your toolbox, you're not going to use like a screwdriver to, I don't know, to hammer in a nail. I mean, you could maybe, but it's better to use a hammer.
Yeah, I also think that niching down, I think the advice online that you're also talking about probably is not specific enough. Like it's too universal. You've already said that. Even we struggled with this year, and we've been talking about it for the last 2 years? No, 3 years. We started the podcast in 2023.
3 years already.
Yeah, and it was June, I think, even. So it's like exactly 3 years. So we've been talking about this for 3 years, giving similar advice, and even we struggle with it because it's a very difficult thing to do, to find the balance between like, when am I, like, how do I actually speak to that customer I'm trying to speak to, and then also stay true to who we are. And that balance was very difficult to find. I feel like now we finally got there.
Yeah. Now I feel comfortable in the niche that we are in, but I think that what we struggled with
just
was
one last thing to that, just to add to what I was saying, is that we were niching down, like outwardly, yes, we were niching down, and it still wasn't successful. So like niching down doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be successful. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah. And also I think that, that's first of all, that's true. And second of all, I think that now with this conversation, it got kind of clearer to me. I don't think that we had a specific target group. And I feel once we had the target group, we were able to kind of like create a more, a better positioning for ourselves. And I think that's what actually was missing for us. Like after all, it was like the high level positioning. I think we got the lower levels right with the services.
Yeah.
Like we weren't really niching down there. And I think that can also work. Just didn't work for us. But
we still ended up speaking to nobody.
Exactly.
Funnily enough.
Exactly. So I feel like a really good takeaway from this conversation is to like try to think of your target group, of your target audience. Well, that was just like a personal anecdote. Well,
I just feel like a lot of advice out there is basically telling you to like be known for this one thing you're an expert at, and be known for that forever, and always be the person people should come to if they want to have this one thing. And you're like, you walk this certain path, and now you can prescribe basically a recipe of like the steps someone has to do to walk this path as well. Or like if you're in the service industry, then you can just do this whole project within those certain points, and then they will get this perfect result, just like all the other results you like get to other people who wanted the same result basically. And I feel like a lot of that advice is based on you having arrived at a certain point, and for the world to always stay the same, so you can always predict what the outcome or the result is going to be, and always like deliver that kind of thing. But I feel like a lot of what I'm talking about is that like a lot of things change. The world is constantly changing. I mean, the world is burning basically right now, and like we have to adapt in this whole industry, in this whole economy, in this whole like, I don't know, the way we have to work nowadays, because like with AI and everything that's moving so quickly, we have to adapt constantly. And I feel like a lot of what the advice for multi-hyphenates is like, use all these different things you like as your advantage. Like navigate your way through this like very confusing world, and like try to figure it out, and try to do more different things, and like see how you grow as a person by doing all these different things. And maybe share this along the way with people who are also maybe on the same way, and then kind of like lead by example and basically call in people or clients, or I don't know, people who want to work with you or want to collaborate with you by showing yourself in this kind of like unfinished process. And I feel like that is something that I like, that it doesn't have this like finality of like, I don't know, these are the 5 steps you have to do to get to this result, but like look at how I'm doing this with the skills I have, but with also the skills I'm still learning, how I navigate this path, how I'm like moving in this. This is why I'm calling it this like living, breathing ecosystem, because it's like constantly changing. And maybe in a year, I won't be offering the exact same services I do now, but it's still like it evolves all the time. And I feel like there is a very, how do you say, like a flexible power in that to like adapt constantly and like kind of like see where this road takes you with this constantly changing world we're living in. And I feel like that's a very nice thing about being a multi-hyphenate and really leaning into that, because you consciously like move away from like, okay, I have this role or this job description and I'm going to do this for the next, I don't know how many years, to more of like, I am the person, like I am the one with the skills and the values and like the ones with the perspectives that people are interested in. And then I can do a lot of different things, but people will still follow that and they will still want to work with me in one case or another. I have people who I like worked with on design work, which also come to my first bathing sessions because they just like really connect with me as a person. And even though I'm not an expert at first bathing yet, because I just finished my training last year, they still kind of like have this trust in that I will probably be doing it in a way that they will appreciate. And I feel like that's based on this like moving through the world as like somebody who is like charging her path basically, and not being just one thing who has like learned her things and stayed in the same role all her time, but still like I don't know, evolved kind of like through all these different things and gained people's trust by, I don't know, connecting about this like constant evolvement and this like work in progress path basically. And I feel like, yeah, that's just something like where I see a lot of advice out there on niching down that just feels very static to me and really inflexible, where I find it's really nice to actually be able to move around quite a bit more.
Yeah, I can, I agree with you on that. It is a very static advice. And I think that sometimes it comes from a place of, or it comes from people that are already in a certain position. Like it usually doesn't come from people who are just like starting out or like craving their paths. It comes more from people who already have what they wanted and want to stay in that lane or want to stay in that path. And I think that we are missing a lot of that in the creative space. It's missing where you see like really the rough process of things. We talked about it in the beginning that in the creative industry we like to like show our success, we like to like show our awards and things like that, but we don't like to show the messy behind the scenes and how we got there. And that's also something that when we started the podcast, that wasn't like, it was an initiative of showing the behind the scenes, of trying to like unpack, yeah,
The struggle.
exactly, unpack the
Mm.
struggle that we were facing and we were feeling like no one else is facing. We knew that people are facing it, but people are just not talking about it. And that's also why I really enjoy the guest conversations, because we always get to a point where it's like such an open, authentic conversation about the
Mhm.
struggles, about the successes, because everything that you've done so far got you where you are right now. And it's really interesting to hear about the process of it all and how you got there.
Mm.
And really interesting to hear your perspective on things.
When we started out in our career, we were very general with like the services we offer and like who we are and who our target group is. Like we didn't niche down. And our experience was like niching down helped us not only for like getting clients, but also for us and our mental like load to have like a clear path we were going down. And I think that like we kind of discovered in this episode that it's just like very dependent on the person doing the work, like what works for them, and that like the niching down advice is not all like one size fits all, obviously. So for you, you did the niching down thing and then you went the other direction. You had kind of the opposite development to us with your business, which is really interesting. If you could go back and talk to yourself like before you had the realization of niching down isn't working, or like maybe talk to yourself as like a, little angel on the shoulder against the devil saying to niche down, like what would you tell yourself to like make it easier for you, or like make you feel better about like compartmentalizing things so that you don't get to the point of being overwhelmed?
I mean, I guess I would always tell my younger self to just stay insanely curious and just give like all these different things a try. Like really, really go for it. Really, I don't know if it's knitting some bags or if it's reviewing books or starting a book club or if it's, I don't know, training for a half marathon and like all these like things apart from design as well. Like really try out all the things and see what works for you. I feel like the generation of our parents who used to be in jobs for like, I don't know, 30, 40 years, that's long over. Like a lot of us are now changing jobs all the time, but I feel like now we're entering another phase, which is more like all of us or a lot of us are actually holding different kind of like roles at the same time. I mean, I know a lot of people who are selling their ceramics and they're also doing social media marketing and they're also, I don't know, are part of a cooking duo or whatever. So it's like really interesting to see like people tapping more and more into their different passions, um and really not seeing it solely as a hobby but like more of a part of their whole identity and taking it outside and showing up as that as well. And I feel like it's just a good advice for people to just don't go out into the work world and just be defined by like you have to give yourself this kind of job description and this is what you're gonna be for the next 3 years, but you can actually build something that consists of a lot of different things you care about. And I think it's important to make young people feel like this is not just something like someone laughs about or belittles. Basically this is just something that is also a part of you and it can totally become your identity. And if you feel like, I don't know, graphic design isn't the thing anymore, there is nothing wrong with changing paths completely. So I feel like I would just encourage my younger self to really keep experimenting and keep playing around and just see where the path takes her eventually, even if it's not what she was envisioning for herself when she started out first. I feel like a lot of people, when they start out in life and they haven't gone through a hard time before, they just feel like there is just this one way their life is gonna play out, basically. And then something unexpected happens, and you're basically made to change, and you're made to like rethink where you're gonna end up and what you're gonna do for the next few years of your life, or where you just like what interests you right now or where do you want to go. And I feel like that's a really good skill to have, is to actually be adaptable and to actually be like, okay, this shit didn't work out the way I was envisioning it, but it's okay. I can totally like chart this new course and try out something new. And
Actually, it's super relevant in the times we're in right now with AI. Everything seems a bit more unsure.
Yeah, I think nobody expected this, like, because it happened so fast. There was no time to prepare.
Yeah.
It's not like everyone could make a new business plan because, like, oh, AI is going to take over in 5 years, like just suddenly it was here and now everyone's panicking. And I think it's really good advice to be flexible. I think it's something that even though we tell everyone to niche down, by the way, we also tell them
Guilty.
we also tell them like to not be afraid to pivot if things don't work out, or if they have a feeling like this isn't the right thing for them anymore, because that's what happened to us. Like we went down a certain way and then we realized no, we don't want to do this, it's not fun for us, and then we just like switched it up. Like we had one conversation and the next day we like implemented a plan to like change everything. And that's something we do a lot. And I think even though we've niched down in our agency, we do have like our passion projects. And I think that we need those because otherwise I would get bored. Like I'm not the kind of person, like I saw my parents work at the same company for I think 35 years, if not longer.
The same role also.
Same role, like my mom got promoted a couple of times, but my dad was already like in a high like position, and he didn't really get promoted more than that. And he was just in that position for like 35, 40 years, I think. And that was, to me, like observing that always seemed crazy, and I never wanted that. And I don't know if it's like a generational thing or if it's just this like, oh, you have to do something different to what your parents are doing.
But I think there's maybe also like I think maybe it's a mix of all
Or
of
it's like
it.
creative people are like that. I don't know. But like I definitely agree with that. Like that we're in a different time where a lot of people, you know, have all these different hobbies and we want to be able to do them, and you can't if you're like only stuck in one role. So
Yeah,
I really
I
love that.
also
And I
feel
think
like
that's something I would have needed to hear earlier as well.
definitely, for sure.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for sharing your perspective on that. I feel like I opened my mind.
I definitely changed my position a little bit, I
Yeah.
have to say.
But that's what happens when having like a really good conversation, and that's why I love guest episodes so much, because you always get like a fresh new perspective, and you're not like stuck in the ways. Because of course, when we just bounce off ideas off of each other, of all like we get the same perspectives because we think in a similar way sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's good to hear a different perspective as well.
I also
Thank
feel
you so
like there is
much.
a lot of stuff out there which is just basically telling us like this thing or that thing is true. So it's like black and white, and
Yeah,
you can only do one. And then like people, like the individuality of people gets really dismissed, and like you totally don't. I don't know. You can't connect with one or the other completely. You're like you can. I mean, in this conversation, I also felt like I understood a lot of things you were talking about concerning your work with trying to gain more high profile clients and how it might not be attractive to them. So I mean, it totally makes sense to me as well. But I think it's super nice that we can talk about this and see all these different kinds of sides to both of these modes of operating, basically. And I feel like a lot of that is true for both of us. Like, I also really liked when you said that by addressing this specific kind of person, it's its own kind of like niching down in a way, which is a really nice way of putting it. But I mean, that's the kind of thing, like we always like try to talk to a specific kind of person. And I feel like it might always lead up to like having this kind of like bubble where we have to, I don't know, talk to the people we want to talk with. I mean, it will also lead to that, but still I feel like there is a lot of space to bring in all more of these different kind of things. And I really liked, I don't know, just talking about it and just like discussing it all.
just
So thank you
sharing,
so much
just
for
sharing
Yeah.
having me.
perspectives. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you. It was really interesting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you enjoy conversations about alternative career paths, check out our episode with Elise Kapta. And if you like the podcast, please leave a 5-star rating.